Hi, hello, y'all. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
How's it? Yeah, happy Friday. Do you remember that song? Was it Rihanna that was like, "Cheers to the freaking weekend. I'll drink to
Uh,
that." Yeah, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say the Friday one by
Oh,
Rebecca
Friday,
Black.
Friday,
Friday.
Friday.
I feel like if
Like
any people
tomorrow
just
is Saturday, today is Friday.
it's like three people just left the event. They're
Yeah,
like, if this is what
and
we're
we're
Why
doing,
out.
I'm
are you
out.
doing why are
Ooh,
you doing this?
great start. Great start.
Very strong start. So wait, I do want to jump right in to a topic on podcasts because we were like kind of talking a little bit backstage about podcasts, and I was saying this is not a podcast. There's no radio announcer voices here. And Meg, you said the goal is to forget that the audience is here, which is true. We would never forget you. We love you. We're thankful you're here. But we want it to feel so natural that it feels like you're just on a call, like a FaceTime with your friends. But we were talking about podcast ideas. Ian, you already have a podcast. I'm going to be a guest soon. Um, Meg, you're
Ugh.
like spin up a podcast, and then I dropped a little gold nugget about a podcast idea that I am thinking about. But Meg, you tell us first.
Okay, so also, Ian, this is my favorite thing about Leslie. She gently bullies you into doing the things that you know that you need to do by like making you
Healthy peer
publicly announce
pressure is a
it.
good thing. Yeah, you said you
Yes.
might be interested in a podcast. Now in front of the entire world, tell us about your podcast.
Yes,
And
because
it's
you know
recorded,
our
so I have the recording.
also being friends with Leslie is like literally years later, she'll be like, "Hey, remember that idea that you like when you're gonna do it? Are you gonna do it yet? Do you need like help with it? Should I bully you into it?" So she never forgets either. But I've been, thinking about a podcast for a while, and I think I had like a few ideas rumbling through the last few years, but um I feel like this one, the universe just like will not let me forget, and it is the energetic side of sales. And I think that there's so many like sales tactics out there, but I mean, I would love to have some of like the most well-known voices in sales to talk about the things that we usually don't talk about unless it's like a virtual coffee where it's like, wait, you're into this as well? Like, I think that no one talks about the energy outside of things like energetic blocks, like imposter syndrome, etc. But when it comes to even, for example, cold calling, I mean, raise your hand if you think that energy impacts cold calling. Like, no shit, right? It's also something I work on with my clients, but I think it's also the reason why a lot of the tactics that you see don't really resonate for everyone. They don't really work for everyone. So, yeah, that's my podcast. And of course, there's going to be a little witchy, a little woo woo. But I think it's really uncovering the kind of secret side of sales that can be your biggest tool, but also is the thing no one talks about. So that is mine.
Yeah, I already have
I'm
like
pretty
five
excited.
people who I'm gonna send you to be on that podcast because that's I think more people are leaning into that of
Yeah.
sales is not just tactics and manipulation anymore. It is also like, how can you show up and be the most human version of yourself? And what's interesting for me when it comes to sales tactics, I put quotes on that.
Mhm.
I've learned more in the last 2 years selling myself as a coach than I ever did in the 10 years prior, 12 years prior in tech sales. Because it was like, I'm selling funny software and it's funny money and it's monopoly money. I don't care that it's a $4 million contract to some big name company that I'm not allowed to say. Doesn't matter. It was easy. It was trivial. Then all of a sudden I had to go sell myself for just a couple $1,000s of coaching. And it's like, I'm okay. This is fine.
It's a
And there's a
big
lot to
difference.
that.
Yeah.
And also the thing that's funny is that there's all these playbooks when you're selling a technology, but I think the entrepreneurial side, especially the aspect of selling yourself. When I always tell people, I'm like, if I can go into sales calls and be like, "Hey, so what do you like about me as a coach? And what do you not like?" It's not like, "What do you like about the technology?" Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, "I don't know, you're kind of young and inexperienced and you have pink or purple hair, that hits a little differently than if they're like, well, this tab doesn't, work the same exact way. So I think it just hits so many of like aspects of our soul. And it really forces you to, I mean, ironically, yeah, it forces you to get so much deeper with, yeah, the energetic side, but also just the spiritual side of sales. I love
Yeah,
that.
I know. It's much different when you are the product. And so when somebody says no, they're not saying no to like a technology or a
Yeah.
service that somebody else imagined up. They're like, no, it's you. I just don't actually choose you. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And even I grew up in like a more traditional sales background. And so I sold a lot of services like, research and executive events and consulting. And I do often think about folks that transition into what they might not realize is a service sale when they become their own bosses and they've only sold tangible stuff before that. So I'm like, gosh, if it was hard for me with the specific background of selling similar types of products, like, gosh, that, of course I still had to do a lot of the energetic work and getting over the like being vulnerable and really putting myself out there and having the conversation like with myself over and over again. Like, you were incredible at selling stuff for other people. And I always believed in what I sold, but like, I wasn't the final person in control of the roadmap. So there were always things I would change. And then it's like, when I'm selling me, I'm 100% in control. I know they're going to get tremendous ROI. And I'm like, but yeah, like if, if you're not interested, I just won't, it's no problem. I'll just go journal about it.
Yeah, a good shower cry, and I'll get through this. But I got 3 more calls that I have to get through.
Yeah, it's also funny though, because when you become the product, the roadmap hits different. Because I think the roadmap is like spiritual healing, and that's truly what it is, right?
Yeah.
I'll just kind of open the kimono for me. I don't necessarily struggle as much with them accepting me as much personally. What I would end up struggling with is needing to prove how competent I am. And so, like, on a discovery call, the way that I would feel safe is if they walked away being like, man, Ian really knows what he's talking about. In the nervous system, I particularly serve the ADHD community pretty heavily. And so if they walked away from the call being like, man, Ian is really smart, even if I didn't close the deal, I'd feel safe still. And I had a very loving sales coach call me out on that of, your need to prove your competence is keeping you from being able to put food on the table for your family. Okay, how do you even sit with that? How do I build my resilience to that feeling of needing to get on a call and prove my competence and intelligence versus making sure that I'm serving them by helping them know whether us working together makes sense, and how can I validate that, and how can I pressure test that? Why now? Why me? Why all of those things versus let me prove all that I know about this topic so you can walk away saying nice things about my intelligence.
That's actually really adjacent to a topic that we covered a few months ago. And I would push back a little bit and say that there is a tie with you wanting to be accepted and wanting to be liked and living in your safety zone. And we were not talking about it in terms of like live discovery calls, but we were talking about it through the lens of content and why it's often so much easier to lean on expert-led content than risking putting like a point of view out there or a personal post, because then it becomes subjective. It is our opinion versus like, I've done the research, here are the data points. I am 100% sure that like, this is not just my opinion or based on my unique experience. Like, this is it. And that very much does come from a resistance to wanting to be perceived or to be vulnerable, to stick with such a fact-based approach.
Yeah, and I had a client come to me. She's a founder, and very similar challenge. Also, I will definitely share my lighting, and also I'm laughing because lighting is something that we often talk about with Leslie, and I work with the same content coach, and I'm going to literally screenshot this and send it to him.
Like,
He also would probably have Haha. No,
Unrelated,
he would
but I
have
have
like
to tell this.
15 things.
I have to tell you this before I forget.
Yeah.
I have like my other camera that's up over here. And so I was doing some like YouTube recording. And of course it was like 2 hours of like making micro adjustments. And then I was finally ready to ship it. And our coach was like,
Ugh.
can you actually just lift it up another half an inch? Because I can see a small square of your like paneling on the bottom. And I was like, I will murder
I
you.
hate you. I hate you.
Like,
Exactly.
no, I will not do this. And so I refused to do it and shipped the content anyways, because we have a whole nother group called the shipping department, Ship It.
Yeah.
And that's what we
Ship
do. We ship it. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
But no, I think like it is interesting the idea as well of this woman reached out to me and she was like, hey, I want some help with being a founder. And when I looked at her stuff, it was all much about like kind of like convincing people of credibility. And I just asked her, I was like, why did you book this call with me? Did you go in and see all of my the brands that I worked with and everything? And she was like, I didn't look at any of that. I literally was just so obsessed with like the brand and the content. And so I think there's also just this aspect of like belief and also personal brands that runs really different.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I've ever won a deal because of like a slide that shows like all of the work that I've done, et
Here are
cetera.
my
It's like,
logos.
I mean, I am kind of proud of a lot of them, but no, I think it's interesting when you have to almost like embody the credibility, like every moment you share and even like your energy radiates the brand and radiates your beliefs. And I think that hits a lot different.
You do such a good job at that too. Like, I think you are truly exceptional, particularly if I look at your arc over the last 2 years. Like, I think that you are truly exceptional in answering the question, expertise aside, like, are you even somebody I would enjoy working with? And then I'm like, oh, I think I would really vibe with her. I think I would enjoy working with her. And then I can get on a call and be like, do you have the right set of expertise to like meet my needs? But a lot of people have expertise and a lot of people are really shitty to work with. So I feel like you kind of like answer the more difficult question first.
Wow, that's wild that you say that as well, because I don't often post about a lot of sales stuff. Like, I'm not like, here's the right discovery questions to ask, but that is a lot of the work that I do. And that's, I think, to your point, it took a lot of time for me to figure out that was the more important question. It's almost like, how am I different than every other sales coach? Because like, let's be real, any fucking sales coach is going to help you with discovery questions, strategy, etc. Those are sales foundations. But I think, wow, that just hit so hard, because I think that is the question that's more important to answer. Why are you different? Why should I hire you? And experience aside, it's more about trust and trust and vibe. Can we say vibe?
Literally vibe. Yes. Yeah.
Vibe.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out the fact that with the rise of AI, knowledge is cheap.
Ooh.
Knowledge is painfully cheap now. And so it's funny because you talk about Meg, of like anybody can lead them through questions to ask, things to do to build their pipeline. AI can do that just as much. So why are we still engaging with humans? It's because when you and I engage together, there's a different part of my brain that's lighting up than when I try to talk with this faceless robot. It could give me the exact same thing, but I sit across from Meg and she's like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I totally resonate with this feeling that person said this and that cut deep, and now you have to regulate before you're done. Whereas like when Claude goes like, that's a great point. Man, I know that's hard. You're just kind of like, whatever, robot.
I'm like, also, I know you're lying to me, robot.
Exactly. You just tell me what I want to know. So what's
Um,
interesting is context
mhm.
matters, and our human context is what we're talking about, right? And I think the beauty of us as coaches is that we have to remind people in a world of AI and robots and machines, what is it like to be human again? And how do we bring back more of that humanness? And as coaches, we embody it, we live it. And if we're not embodying it, our content doesn't show that we're embodying it. People are like, why am I going to work with you if I can tell that you are not living this out? You're not. So there is some amount of like, we do kind of have to show that we're living it, but also living all of it, not just the beautiful closed one deals of like, no, this is what it looked like when I lost that deal. In fact, I already put that money towards a bunch of things. I committed X amount to this nonprofit organization and I told them beforehand, and now I'm egg in my face. Chat's not going to give you that.
And you actually bring up two things that are really interesting that Leslie and I, we actually have done like a content retreat. We call it the Sales Witches Retreat for the last 3 years. And it is so interesting because I think two things that I've really been working on over the last few years, you just embody so beautifully, which is a lot of us when we write content and when we kind of talk to the world, we talk from two perspectives. We talk from this overly professional, overly like showing my credibility piece. And I think like one thing that Leslie and I had such a good conversation over dinner about this last year is like, I'm curious if y'all have ever had like whether it's a sales call or something like that where people are like, or even having dinner with you for the first time, and they're like, whoa, you're like a lot different than on LinkedIn.
Oof,
Because
that would break
Leslie,
my heart.
really, I feel like no, Leslie, I have said this to you personally. Leslie literally
but
has so many crazy things.
Yes, you get, because we are extraordinarily close friends, you get access to a depth of insight about who I am as a human and the lives that I have lived that I give to very few people.
Okay, I'm not talking about those crazy things. There's a lot there.
Like,
but no, when I'm talking even like
superficially, I would want
what
my personality that I had on LinkedIn to match my, like, if I was literally truly just meeting somebody, maybe not having like a heart to heart with them, I would be devastated if they were like, wow, you're totally different than you are in LinkedIn. I was like, oh.
No, I mean like way cooler. Like, whoa, you're so funny, you're so this, you're so that. And I think that's like what we've both been working on. I mean, for me, it meant just like a complete rebrand. But the other thing that I think a lot of like I've had to work on this year, which is interesting, is a lot of times we talk from like a future or like current perspective where it's like, this is what I believe now. And Ian, you just hit it where I've actually been posting so much content from like before I healed, before I learned all this stuff, before that people are actually burnout coaches are commenting on my stuff. And they're like, hey, if you need help with this, I can help. And I'm like, no, I'm actually the coach. I help with this, but I think that's interesting as well, because I think we kind of get this curse of knowledge where even if it's like discovery questions, like just taking you back to when like you first started in sales and thinking like, what is so hard about it? And really putting yourself, like writing content from the past version of yourself. You know what I mean? I feel like so many people just present the perfect image, and that's almost alienating for people. Cause I'm like, like even writing to your past self and showing people the journey to get there and having them resonate with like, oh my God, I'm actually here. You're here and I want to get there. I think it's so important to show the hard parts, to show the places you struggle, to show the depths of your soul where you're like, I didn't always find this so easy,
Yeah, it reminds me of the BBG phrase that like you're best positioned to serve the person that you once were.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Leslie, we've been talking about a lot of really cool things, but I'm like, okay, what is your podcast idea? Because I'm like, how is it going to embody all of this? No pressure.
Spill it now.
Okay. So what is the one question that I ask every single sales alchemy session? At the end, I usually am like, wait, but before we leave.
Wins.
What is
the moon up to?
What is the moon up to?
I was like, it can't be that.
It
No,
is
wait, are you joking? Are you
Because
joking?
like I have obviously like I mean people can't see it, but I have this like whole setup. And I would not want to do a podcast with guests because that just feels like girl, like take several seats. You don't need to put that on your plate.
Yeah,
but I was like,
easy.
man, what is something that I could genuinely like yap about? And it's like, hey, what do you think the moon is thinking right now? Like, what's the moon up to? And I was really thinking about this a couple of weeks ago because I was asking that question in my journal, like, what's like the moon doing today? And I wanted to find some specific journaling prompts, and I like couldn't really find them, but like for that specific moon. And then I was on Spotify and I was looking for podcasts, and there were some podcasts about the moon, but they were sort of all the same, where it's like it kind of feels like somebody just went to Claude and got like and they were like, and the stones for this moon and the herbs for this moon, like they're just sort of reading. And I was like, no,
yeah,
like I want to have like a little conversation with the moon and like what it's bringing up and what it makes me think about and what I'm feeling and what I'm journaling about. And maybe other people are thinking those same things or asking those same questions. I don't know. I ran it by one other person and they were like, no, I don't. That feels really specific to you. I don't think anybody else out there is asking the moon what it's up to. And I was like,
yeah.
okay.
I think this literally encompasses every single thing we have talked about, because this is what I'm talking about, where like, I don't, I met Leslie and I like every single time I meet, I was like, oh, I didn't know that she was like so witchy and also collects sticks, magical sticks. So like
over here, this is my stick captain over here.
But Ian, one, you have to do this. It actually reminds me, one of my favorite podcasts is Crime Junkie. Wait, I can't remember if it's Crime Junkie or there's this other one, but like they have spin-off podcasts and it's just weird shit that they're into.
Yeah.
And I think this is like your spin-off one. I love it. But I actually have a question for Ian. You've been quiet. Are you into the moon, or like are you into any other like woo-woo fun things?
So here's
show us
funny.
Your crystals.
I was gonna say there are no crystals. But unfortunately I have run into this problem a lot for myself. Growing up, I grew up in kind of like a intense Lutheran environment, young earth creationist culture. And I was really into math and science. And so growing up, like I wasn't even allowed to dig into the science too much, because if you go into too much to the science, that's sort of blasphemous. And so I've always kind of been like on the outside looking in of a lot of circles. So especially spending a lot of time as a militant atheist, because I went hard in the other direction. The woo-woo that I talk about a lot has a lot to do with what does it look like from like biblical manifestation, so I mean, now that I kind of adhere to some of these Christian values and ideals, it's not going against woo-woo, mind you. It's just, how do I look at the nature of prayer? And so this is something for me. When I first started posting on LinkedIn, I went straight to struggling with addiction, and here's all the things that looked like. And so I went straight into the like, we've got some dirty laundry we're going to talk about, at least some dirty socks, right? And so like I went straight to the most uncomfortable thing possible. But part of my story is that I received prayer from my future self when I was in the middle of addiction, when I was first starting to come out of it. And so for me, when you talk about woo-woo, of like, I very much so lean into, there is a future version of me who's praying for me right now in my current circumstances. And my ability to receive that, going from woo-woo back into the neuroscience, is that flow state is essentially this repetition of being in the now, being present. And the problem is when we're super anxious and overwhelmed and ruminating, which is past stress, catastrophizing, which is future stress, we're missing out on the present. And so it's beautiful is like, I look at prayer as this infinite now. And there's this future version of me who's praying into me in this exact moment. And there's this past version of me that I'm praying into in this exact moment. And so now all of a sudden there's this infinite now that I'm experiencing, that I have no bitterness towards my past self, even the addicted one, even the one that struggled, and the infidelity and betrayals and all of that. Like, I'm not bitter with him at all, because life right now is beautiful. And so oftentimes we can get stuck worried about decisions we're going to make, because usually when we worry about a future decision is because we're perceiving a future version of us is bitter, is angry with us for bad decisions, versus of like, hey, no, there's just a future version of me who's thankful for the lessons, thankful for just the way that I'm showing up right now. Even if things are hard for them, they're not bitter. They just love me. And our ability to just receive that always. So for me, the woo-woo is like, in a moment when I'm about to prep a presentation and I am struggling, receiving gratitude and love from the future version of me who's just getting off stage, who's so thankful for me having put in that work. And one person even in the audience is saying, hey, Ian, that was for me today. And I'm just receiving gratitude from that future version of me who's getting to experience the beauty and the abundance and joy of the output of me just bitterly working on some slides. Just slugging my way through it.
I love that. And honestly, I love like I do struggle with a lot with anxiety, and I have OCD where I will kind of anxiety spirals, and just like a shame spirals especially. And I just love that the imagery and the energy of like a future me is praying for my current self. But I actually had a question for you. Like, how do you define prayer? Is it just like pray? Is it energetic? Like, how do you define that?
No, I love that question, because for most people, they think of it exactly like you did, of just like this. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, right? Like, and what's funny is that even if you look biblically, the disciples of Jesus were like, hey, Jesus, teach us how to pray. How are you doing it? Because when we do it, bleh. And there's been moments when I felt like my prayers didn't make it past the ceiling, right? And like that, there was this distance between me and my perception of the nature of God, right? And you use the language of the universe. Like, I celebrate that. I'm not bitter or opposed to it at all. That essentially for me, prayer is our ability to tap into that transcendent power, right? And so the language that I use now is like the universe or God is this infinite power outside of myself. And he is, I say he, and I apologize for that, this existential being that has infinite power and love, and it's available to all of us. My ability to tap into that power is given by this example that I call Jesus, and he's the human form of it. He is the example that I try to adhere to. And he gave us this power to tap into that infinite love. And I call that the Holy Spirit. Right. So like, this is the language that I use, but when I talk about prayer, it's me accessing the infinite power of God and pull that into this moment in time. And so it's interesting, like when we look at it from the perspective of biblical language, he says, hey, if you have faith, you can tell that mountain to throw itself in the sea, and you can pray for that. But when you pray, if you're holding bitterness and unforgiveness for somebody, forgive them so that you too may be forgiven. So these are practical applications of that. So what is prayer, right? And there's some amount of, I calm my amygdala enough, and here's the practices and habits that I ground my amygdala, so then I can at least say, I am capable. I have access to infinite power that allows me to throw this mountain into the sea.
Wow.
There's
Literally
no
so
practical
much.
applications of that.
Yeah. Wow. Literally so much you mentioned there. And I actually have a question for Leslie, because have either of you read, I'm reading the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael. I love his other book so much, The Surrender Experiment. I think I told you about this, Leslie. Like, I had surrender as my word of the year for years, and I've
read Surrender Experiment. That's why it sounds familiar. The one with the blue cover. Yeah.
So
oh my God. I'm reading his other book. I've read The Surrender Experiment like 3 to 4 times, but like, wow, I can't believe I literally started it yesterday, and I can't believe just the synchronicities, because it covers so much of what you talk about, and like that kind of like ceiling that you talked about, like where it was like you were praying but it wasn't reaching it. That's exactly what this book is about. And I think that really this is something, Leslie, we've talked about a lot, which is like our belief in like when you kind of hit like the ceiling of belief. And I think this is what it resonates so deeply with the topic that we brought, was like kind of like unlocking new versions of yourself. Leslie, how do you feel? Did that resonate for you? Kind of like you're wanting something, even if you're manifesting something, but like it doesn't transcend yet.
Yeah. I thought of a few things, like especially in the lens of like this August energy and shedding skins and transition and growth. One of the things that immediately came up for me is a callback from other conversations where we talked about like parts therapy, or this understanding that there are these, like, we have lived many lives and there are many parts of us, and that sometimes what might be holding us back is that we are refusing to let go of a part of ourselves that did serve us at some point.
Oof.
But that no longer serves us.
Right.
And I think
So
one of
good.
the things that both you and I talked about, Meg, was like a part of us that we needed to protect ourselves. And now it's like, you're okay. But it's sometimes it's hard to believe that, and like letting go of those pieces of yourself that no longer serve you. And being grateful that they played the role that they did when you needed them. So that came up for me straight away. And one of the other things that came up for me, and we kind of circled around this idea a few times, is sometimes I get really frustrated with a lot of the language around manifestation, because people are like, oh, I like manifested it. I'm like manifesting it. And I'm like,
We touch it, yeah.
cool. And like, what else are you doing? Like, that's cool. Like, speak your truth into the world, like speak it into existence. But if all you're doing is like literally saying your dreams out loud, and you aren't, like, for me, it's like meditating on it, a very active meditation on it, which is like my version of prayer for my theism. But it's like, if you are not journaling on it, if you are not meditating on it, if you are not doing the work to remove the mental and emotional barriers that allow you to step into this new version of yourself and your life that you are trying to manifest, then like, what are we doing? What are we doing here, folks? Yeah, those were like the two things that were kind of bouncing around in my brain as Ian was sharing.
Can I jump on that, Leslie? Because I love that aspect of celebrating. This is the skill that past me had. This is the data that they had. They did the best with the tools that they had and their ability at the time. And I love them for it. I'm so grateful for you. Hey, you did the best with what you had, but hey, it's not serving us anymore. And what I like about this idea of forgiveness that you're talking about is, when I think of limitations, it's usually somebody else's limitations for me. And I have to forgive them of the limitations that they had for me and what they told me is and isn't possible. And then I have to forgive myself for agreeing with them. And whenever I think about like me taking next steps in action, of it is this consistent process of like, I'm kind of grieving the fact that I've spent so long agreeing with other people's limitations for my life. That's hard.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden I've repeated those thoughts enough time that it sounds like me. It's not me. Hey, I actually don't have to agree with every thought that my brain is telling me. And some of those limitations, hey, this isn't even my limitation. It's kept me safe. Thanks for keeping me safe. It's kept me stimulated. Oh, thanks for keeping me stimulated. Not serving me.
Yeah. One of the things that Meg and I have talked about quite a few times is that, like, at some point in our lives, we were both sold this narrative that like we aren't creative, or like we are not the creative one in our family. And we heard it externally reflected to us so many times that it became an internal narrative, and it became something that like I thought I was saying about and believed about myself. And then one day I was like, I don't know, but like, why? Like, I think I kind of am creative. Like, maybe I'll test it out. And now like half of my hobbies are creative hobbies, like scrapbooking and short story writing. And I'm like, oh, actually core to who I am as a human is this deeply creative being. But like, man, I let somebody talk me out of that. What a bummer. But also I was doing the best I could at the time. And now I'm working with a different set of facts that allows me to be a more embodied version of myself, closer to my favorite ever version of myself.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because there's kind of like these, I imagine kind of three different aspects. There's like the future self, like as you just said, like the best version of ourself. For me, I feel like there is, right, even right now, especially. I feel like I'm kind of being ripped into a new version of myself, even before I'm kind of like fully ready. Um, and I think a lot of people, that's where, like, and Ian, you talked a lot about the present. And I love what you said about the present and flow as like truly tapping into and staying in the present as much as possible. And I think a lot of people, what you're talking about, Leslie, with the I'm manifesting, I think like the gap that a lot of people don't do is realizing that there's also the past. And like sometimes these past versions creep so much so that like it's almost, I imagine it as like kind of like a weight or an anchor that's holding us
Mm.
down from achieving that new version of ourselves. And it's actually interesting because for me over the last year I've been doing parts therapy paired with somatic processing for like 2 or 3 years now. And I did not realize how much anxiety was crippling me on an everyday basis, because that was like the only experience of life that I had known, because I had pretty severe trauma and complex PTSD from childhood. So, like, I didn't know that no one else struggled to just go to the grocery store or to do basic things without absolutely spiraling. Um, and that's also like healing those parts of ourselves. A big part of parts therapy is also just like the forgiveness, Ian, that you mentioned. But I think this also, a part of the forgiveness is that deep compassion and understanding. And for me, it's so funny because I've worked with so many parts of myself now that like I literally have, when I do parts therapy and I visualize, there's like a little circle of parts and they're just like sitting in a circle, like kumbaya style. And anytime a new part comes up from like the depths of my soul, they're like, welcome, come play guitar and sing at the bonfire with us. Um, but I literally had this weird existential crisis recently when I realized like, I don't know what it looks like to literally live without crippling anxiety on an everyday basis. And it's almost like this weird, like there's like a void in my life when I healed so many of those past versions that were taking up space in my present and in my future. And I don't know if y'all have ever felt that, but like I feel like a lot of people kind of feel the opposite, where it's like, oh, I want these things, but they don't realize that there's no space for that future, for those blessings, or for like the new version of yourself to show up, because there's so much of like the past narratives and there's just no space for anything else to exist. Does that resonate?
What I like that you're talking about, one, I love parts work. Like I personally, for me, I call it metacognition. Like I take
Yeah.
a step back from what's happening in my thoughts, in my nervous system, in any part of my visceral experience. I am outside of all of it. I can just observe all of it. So when anger comes up, I can be like, anger, brother, what's going on, man? And he's like, I'm scared.
Oh,
Like, okay, I feel that. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, I only know how to protect myself with anger and adrenaline and intensity. I don't know how to do that any other way. I don't know how to set boundaries when I'm not angry and aggressive. Oh, okay, I feel that. You feel like you're heard when you're angry because you're loud. Everyone else is so loud. I need to be louder than they are. Man, anger, take a seat. I love you, brother. Like, I'm not afraid to feel grief or sadness now, because usually fear and grief is like, those aren't stimulating. And so anger is. Anger
mm,
mobilizes action. Anger mobilizes intensity. And like, I have trained my nervous system that like, hey, if you want to protect yourself from fear and grief, like mobilize some anger. And as I've just continued to increase my ability to sit with grief and fear, hey, the anger is not there as much. And I feel a little bit more peace around that. I'm not the guy who's flipping tables anymore. I'm not the guy who's riding a motorcycle and punching side view mirrors if they accidentally come into my lane. For me, it wasn't anxiety. For me, it was aggression.
mm.
And just
I'm
like
curious,
constantly using
Ian.
aggression for mobilizing energy.
Because I'm obviously hearing this reflected from you right now, but I've seen it in your comments, and then we're also in like a group together. So I've seen it in some of those interactions. But I think there are a lot of people, but particularly men, who struggle with the idea of being emotional. I think there are a lot of people that struggle with realizing that anger is an emotion. Anger is possibly the strongest emotion. And so that they are emotional. They are feeling emotions all the time. They are feeling strong emotions. And just in case anybody is listening that is maybe grappling with this idea of like how freaking scary it is to feel deeply, or maybe they don't feel safe, like naming the fact that they are emotional, like what is maybe one mindset shift or one exercise, like something they could do that's like a small toe in the water?
Are you asking me or Meg? Sorry, you're gonna let that.
Yeah,
Oh, me.
you.
Okay, perfect. So one, celebrating the fact that not feeling was safer. And so we talked about forgiving your past self, of like forgiving yourself for shutting off and walling off all of these emotions. Some people don't necessarily feel anger. Some people have muted even that too, because anger is scary. Anger is intimidating. Anger is aggressive and violent. And that's not safe either, because they experienced aggression and violence. So they've shut that off. And for them, their emotion is apathy. And so for them, it's actually apathy is still a feeling. Like you said, anger is still a feeling, but it's a numbness. It's actually a feeling of no feeling. And so now I actually just feel this like emotionally neutral. I'm not neither excited nor overjoyed nor anything. How do I even give language to apathy and being able to say, what does it feel like in my body? Where does that sit? If I had to give it, if I had to give it a color, if I had to give it a texture, it's something that
I can already tell you it's yellow and it sits in the solar plexus.
For you, yellow. For me,
I know exactly where
tar.
it sits. It's what?
Mine
Say
is,
it again.
Mine is black and tar. It's black and it's textured, and I can't pull it off of me. It weighs so heavily, and it's because of the fact that with apathy, for me, there's a whole bunch of nervous system dysregulation happening, but apathy comes with a lot of fear, because apathy usually came with hopelessness. I equate apathy with hopelessness. Apathy usually came with a lot of suicidal ideation and some really intrusive thoughts. And so apathy was something I was afraid of, but didn't know how to get myself out of. How do I even love and encourage and support and invite apathy to have a seat in the circle? And like, hey, you too. Like, you too. Because to that point, like some of those thoughts of self-harm were still trying to keep me safe. We're still trying to keep, it was still stimulating of like, hey, people, like there's some perception of like, this is trying to keep me safe. It just sucks at it. It's just not the best way to do it. And again, like Leslie, you talked about this, like, hey, that used to serve me, that did used to feel safe. It's not serving me anymore.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I shut down when those thoughts come up, or when that feeling of apathy comes up. I'm not afraid of it. Therefore, I'm not trying to go use mechanisms to escape that feeling. But for the person who is kind of in that numb apathetic state or belittles feeling emotion, what I would ask you is, what is your relationship with the emotions you're not allowing yourself to feel?
Or also, what is your relationship with apathy? Like for me, I know how mine feels. It literally is like a stone gargoyle that sits with its little claws in my shoulders. And I literally and the gargoyle is interesting. So I was like, why is it a gargoyle? And I was like, oh, because it's stone. It literally freezes me in like the freeze response. And it's super heavy. And I feel like I'm drowning. I can't do anything. I'm just stuck in that freeze response. And like that's for me, even just like recognizing when I was going into it, I was like, okay, like let's like how are you feeling? What's happening right now? What are you afraid of? And like every morning I would check in with it and I would literally be like, hey, I feel you. You're clenching a little bit. Do you want to come and sit in my lap? And like I would like rock it like a baby and hold it. And I didn't realize how much it was even impacting me or like when I was going into those emotions. because no one talks about apathy or freeze response as an emotion. And like, holy crap, that just resonated so deeply because I thought that also a lack of emotion. I know you're like, men struggle with this a lot. I think top performers struggle with this a lot from all the ones I work with as well. Is like not only the anger, but also apathy or like dissociation. It was dissociation for me, I think, as well. And I don't think I've ever even really heard that described as like, I think it's almost like described as such a positive in corporate America when it's like, work through the feelings, work through the fear, work through the emotions. And I was like, I'm amazing at this. I am the
Yeah.
best person to work through this because I literally have no emotions. And I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just going to like crush everything, you know?
Yes. I literally
And
used to
wow, did
tell
that hit.
people that I didn't feel empathy. I literally used to say that out loud about myself. And like what I know now is that I actually felt it so deeply that I was like, you know what is going to be so much easier than having to feel these feels? I'm just going to pretend like they don't exist. And I'm going to say it out loud
Wow.
enough to myself and enough to other people until I can convince my brain to believe it. And like, to be fair, while life might be more rewarding with a deep well of empathy, it also is a lot more exhausting.
Yeah.
But something else that I did that I think is disassociative looking back is
Hmm.
a coping mechanism for corporate America is that
Hmm.
I never gave myself a moment to think. I was busy. Like I woke up and I was listening to an audiobook or I was listening to music and I was on the bus and I was keeping my brain busy. And then I was at work and I was busy. And then it was after work and I was out to a drink or having a drink at home. And then I was watching TV on the big screen while doing something like work on my small screen, while maybe even doing something else on my other screen. And then I was going to bed. Like there was never a point ever that I let myself sit in silence. And if that is not some form of disassociative behavior, and I know that that is not common to me either, because as I have shared, particularly when I like did the sober curious reset and had to reckon with like another level of boredom, I had
Hmm.
already done so much work recovering from burnout and breaking up with some of the habits that I had to like ask, do these serve me? Do I want to like carry these forward in my own life? Like I'd already done so much freaking work. And then to add sobriety on top of that, where it's like, wow, now I just am like really just sitting in silence, sober. It's work that I have continued to do and grapple with and like divorce myself from some of those coping mechanisms.
Hmm. And I think it's so interesting from like what we're talking about as well. Like for when we talk about kind of these three parts, it's like the person, the best version of yourself you want to be, the present. And I feel like personally my present was running from the past, but it's kind of like Naruto. Is it Naruto running? Where it's like I'm literally, if I stop, I'm gonna fall over. Because when I stopped running from the past, it felt like I had to let a tsunami of like trauma just wash over me in the present. And that was like years of healing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh my God, I think I might be ready to welcome something different in now. Like there is more
Mhm.
space for that new version of myself. But wow, I think so many people's present is kind of living in the past. It's running from the past. It's proving yourself different than you were in the past. Or Ian, something you said that was so beautiful earlier was like a lot of people, like myself included, a lot of the times, we're not even really like doing things for ourselves. We're doing things for other people. You know, it's like the narratives that people have put onto you, the expectations people have put onto you. And that takes up just so much space again that like we can't even step into a new version of ourselves because we're again like being tied down by all of these things.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has really helped me, and even just like what you talked about, like, yeah, there is always a floodgate, and a lot of people who are like, nope, I'm going to keep this dammed behind this wall. If I let even a little crack of this to break, it's going to be a flood and I'm going to drown in it. And there is some amount of gentleness that you have to be of like, yeah, but you're not going to be alone in that. So the more we lean into of like, hey, I've been through what you've been through. I'm willing to get back in the muck and mire of it all as a coach, right? It's like, I'm not a general who's just lobbying a bunch of instructions onto the battlefield. It's like, no, I am literally in the bunker with you. Like, you're not alone. You're safe. We're going to get through this together. And there is some amount of camaraderie that we all feel when we all have this like, hey, what was your moment when you realized like, hey, I don't have to keep hiding this thing.
Yeah.
I don't have to keep wearing this alone. And now, hey, I don't need to, because I'm so numb and apathetic towards myself, I don't have to keep masking and mirroring just to appear like everybody else because I'm a shell of myself. I don't even know who I am. I'm a mix of every other person in the room because that feels safer and more stimulating than just being me, whoever that is. But when it comes to the nervous system, I think what's really interesting is that every time we try to create a new identity or start a new neural pathway, is that you are essentially, the analogy I like to use is like you're going through this jungle and you've got this like really dull machete and you're just hacking and slashing, trying to create this like new process and this new mechanism and this new identity with new beliefs and new behaviors. And the entire time that you're doing that and you're sweating so much because it's a swamp in this jungle, you're looking next to you and it's like there's a 5-lane superhighway with free rides and snacks. And yet I'm over here hacking and slashing at this new neural pathway I'm trying to create. And the whole time you're having a different part of your brain being like, it'd just be a lot easier if you came over here on the superhighway of the old way, of the old identity, of the old beliefs. And we get so bitter at ourselves when we just hop back on that old superhighway, when in reality it's just like, hey, it's okay that this is hard. It's okay that we're going to have to learn how to celebrate every tiny little new behavior, new belief that reinforces the direction that we want to go to. And I think where people get this wrong is they think that they have to come up with new strategies for that new pathway, when in reality it's come up with 1,000 ways to reinforce one. And it's one done enough times, right? Like in our sales role, like, hey, you just need to go make 100 cold calls. And it's not that you have to come up with 100 different ways to make 100 cold calls. It's come up with 100 different ways to celebrate, reinforce, and make sure that you're actually doing the same boring, mundane thing enough repetitions that now it doesn't become this big monumental task excursion in the jungle. It's I've rebuilt this pathway in my brain. And it's always tough when you achieve something that somebody is like, what's your secret? And you're just like, for me, I'm pretty well renowned for my triceps and I have no shame in that. I've worked pretty hard at it. People are like, Ian, what tricep exercises do you have to do? I do 2.
Oh my gosh.
But I've done 2 tricep exercises every week, twice a week, actually, for the better part of 20 years. And they're like, no, there's got to be a secret. And I'm like, yep. The secret is that you're 20 years behind me.
The secret is consistency and hard work. Meg, that reminds me of the comment that you posted this morning where like a creator, somebody that you looked up to is like, oh my God, like you're blowing up. I'm seeing your content. Like you must really be posting a lot. And you're like, nope, just 2 to 3 times a day, every single day for over a year. I'm just like reaping the rewards of that work and consistency. So we're almost at time. So
wait, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
We usually close with wins, but can we do a specific win? I have like a hot question of like, what is one kind of like old skin or narrative or something that you're like actively releasing or have released? And like, what is one thing that you're like doing to release it?
Yes, but first we have to talk about the moon.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot the moon.
Obviously. We have to talk about the moon. So yes, celebrations. We're going to save time for celebrations. But quick question about the moon first. So last night there was a lunar eclipse. I don't know if anybody saw it. It was like super cool. And this is the sturgeon moon. And Meg, I actually wish we would have saved more time because I think we probably should have had some conversation about lion gates.
You have an entire podcast.
Well.
I'll bring it up on the podcast.
Yes, my mistake.
Literally, let's just do like podcast.
August is I don't feel it as deeply as other people. Like Meg, I know you feel it more deeply than I do, but it is this huge time of transition, in particular when we think about this full moon that's happening last night tonight. So you're not too late. Like the full moon energy is still out there. It's often called a sturgeon moon. And the idea is that like, that's when the sturgeon are biggest and easiest to catch. And what I always imagine is that it is this time where the food was plentiful. And so people are celebrating abundance while simultaneously fearing the possibility of coming scarcity if their coffers are not full enough as they head into a long winter. And so I think it's this incredible time that speaks to balance, speaks to Ian, like living in the moment. Even though we know we still have to prepare and put in those reps to set ourselves up for the best possible outcomes in the future. And it speaks to what the theme of this time of shedding skins. And in order to shed a skin, that requires you to let go of the old skin, to let go of that old part, that old version, that old narrative, to step into this new version of yourself. So maybe we can do a double ending as we go around the circle.
Let's relate it to that.
One is share a celebration. We always end with sharing a celebration and giving ourselves a pat on the back, because we need to say the things that we're proud of. But then also, if there's something that you are shedding as we head into this new season that you're comfortable sharing, would love to hear that. Ian, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I love the analogy. And so whether the woo-woo resonates or not, the sturgeon moon, fully on board with it. Honestly, I would say that I am in a season of my business starting to do better, which means, there is more money in the bank account than there has been in the last 2 years of me roughing it, of me brown bagging it. The issue is that, to your point, it's not that I fear that there's not enough. It's that, hey, I've been brown bagging it for so long. Now it's time to splurge and enjoy myself because there's money available. Well, but all I'm doing is increasing the likelihood that I'm going to be right back to brown bagging it. And so I'm in this season of, celebrating that I've created some capacity for myself, while also leaning into the fact that stewardship is the word that we use, of still stewarding this well. And so being able to say, of what would a small, I'm blanking on the word, well, small banquet, right? What would a small banquet look like with a small group of people? Not, I'm going to invite the entire town and drinks are on me for everybody. Because I need to go prove that I'm doing super well and come look at how successful I am. So that's honestly, that by itself, yes, I've got some wins within the business that I've shared within the group that had record months as a coach, and signing a corporate workshop client that feels super aligned. But even part of that, of healing my own bitterness towards the corporate world, to go back into it from this loving place of, there are still people in that environment who need the love, encouragement, and grace that I feel called to share with them. Even though it very well might be a bunch of fintech bros that I'm having to like slip in empathy and slip in like emotional regulation stuff. But I feel really amazing about that, and stewarding all of that successful.
Those are great reflections. Thank you. Yeah. Meg, what do you
want to go next, Leslie?
Mine are really easy. Like my celebration, I opened for Tony Robbins this month. Like
insane.
What? Such a milestone moment, like such a clear point of celebration. And not just celebration for getting on the stage, but celebration for how much money and time and energy I've put in, particularly over the last year, for becoming an exceptional speaker, like a keynote speaker, like honing that skill, which also required me to like drop my ego at the door and humble myself many times, because it is a much different skill than like training or workshops or like doing speeches for your team. So dropping my ego and having humility and learning the skill and putting so much energy into it, and then getting to have that proof point and absolutely fucking smashing it. So cool.
Incredible.
Thank you. And then I think the big like transition, or the thing that I'm shedding, and I don't have total clarity on this, but I feel like in this process of recovering from burnout over the past 4 years, I have at times sort of felt like I'm in like my soft girl era. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, I felt that and it felt really right. But I'm sensing a sea change where I feel like I want to be a little bit more in my grind era. And so I don't know what that's going to look like, because I'm certainly not willing to give up my 4-day work week or like give up all of the work I have done. But I can feel it growing in me. And I'm like aware of that and aware that the time will be coming to make transitions around that. What about you,
Yeah.
Mary?
Mine is so similar, and I actually feel you so much of transitioning from the soft girl era to the grind era again. But I think I had to truly like answer what that looks like for me, you know what I mean? Like, and also what was motivating and fueling it, because fear and anxiety is no longer fueling it. And so also for me, what I want, I'm like welcoming in these things, but I have like fear of failure and fear of burnout are my two biggest fears. And I think that's the thing, like the fear of burnout keeps me from doing projects
Yeah.
because I'm so afraid that it's going to look the same and feel the same. And I'm like, oh, my body is scared. So I'm basically like, one of the things I'm releasing is the narrative that it has to be hard or it has to crush me. Like success equals burnout. Success equals dysregulation. Success equals crippling anxiety, you know? And so even like building a little trust with my body and really leaning into the wins instead of like just this like intense criticism or like, oh my God, like it's going to be the same, you know, getting to know every single one of those fears and kind of showing myself that it can be different. I'm still
That's
working on the how.
incredible. No, that's incredible. That's so relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about
This
your?
is, and also I might be hiring Ian, so that's also a big win to help with it.
Ooh, I
Yes.
love that. And what about your celebration?
My celebration, I don't even know. I don't even know. My celebration is literally wanting things again because even for example, like having the dream of the podcast and be like, you know what? I think I can do it now. That is the win. Even announcing that I'm doing a new project that's not like mission critical for my business, something that feels extra and I have a lot of like, no one's not gonna like listen to me on a podcast. Like, I think that represents a lot of improvement, a lot of like healing of imposter syndrome and stuff like that. So thank you as always for pushing me into announcing it. But I think
Gentle
that's a
and
big one.
loving bullying. One of my core roles as a
Pleasantly
friend.
persistent is the
It's
word I like to
yes.
use.
Really persistent.
Hey, what are your boundaries? Can I help you gently push against them? I love
Mhm.
you so much. I want to see you thrive.
Yes.
Hey, what's
I
your
wanna see
mic
everybody
setup?
thrive.
I'm so excited. Yeah, all of it.
I
This
know, I'm
was
gonna get a really cute white and pink and purple mic, like y'all obvious this so clear.
I hate my big pink mics. I can see it. It's over there in like my bin of miscellaneous cords. Maybe I just need to bring it next time I come visit you.
Yeah, just bring it.
Um,
I'll use the pink mic.
yes.
But this has been so
Y'all,
special.
God, it always is. It always is. Thank you. Special thank you to Ian for joining us this month. Really appreciate you and your insights and sharing so vulnerably and openly with us, and appreciate everybody that took the time out of their Friday afternoon to join us. And yeah, just big thank you. Bye,
And
everybody.
also,
Oh, go ahead.
Leslie, thank you for the moon because I think this might be your most powerful one. I just like felt that reading. I was like, "Oof, that is Virgo energy
Moon.
to a T." So thank you. And I can't wait to hear more on the Moon podcast.
The moon. Bye, team.
Thank y'all.